Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2,
there we are.
1. Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, folks. This is Dave Schmidt. I'm your host here again tonight on the Cosmic Connections program. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. This is our August 6th program, so I got some interesting things that I'm going to discuss tonight, but I did send out in the newsletter that tonight we're going to just be discussing around that Cliff High interview that I sent out to everybody. Now, I know that was a longer interview. That was about an hour and 35 minutes, if I believe, but there's such great content that's in there. But Blanca and I will be discussing it out and kind of extending on that a little bit tonight. And with that, I want to say, Blanca, how are you doing this fine evening?
Doing well, Dave. Thank you so much. Busy days, but all these days are busy, and we've got our rainy fall weather. But overall, we're doing good. Thank you.
Well, it's nice and what I call still sunny here in southern Florida. We're still 82 degrees here at my house here at 9 o'clock in the evening in southern Florida. And I won't say anything about that because we always have what is called the endless summer here. we get summer weather here year round, and so I'm enjoying it being here. So yeah. With that, I'm just thinking, October 6th, not August 6th. Thank you, Gerald. I did make a mistake on that. This is the October 6th program, not the August 6th program. So a little misstatement that is there, but thank you. And everybody that's coming up on Facebook and writing your comments, I just want to again say thank you very much for acknowledging that everything's coming across well. So again, Blanca, back to you. Anything else that you would like to share with us or add before we get into the program tonight?
No, I think talking about some of Cliff High's content is going to be interesting, and I hope, and I know probably, your listeners like to listen to a variety of points of view so that then they can synthesize their own, judgment of what's going on. And Cliff High is a really interesting one to listen to, so it'll be fun talking about some of the things he brings forth.
Sure. First of all, folks, I have not made a solid decision on this, but it's very, very probable that I'm going to be restarting the workshops. I haven't done anything since, the 1st of May, dealing around the COVID scenario issue and stuff like that and restricted travel and everything, but I think it's opened up enough that I'm ready to go back into it. I've missed that. It's always such a wonderful time to be with all of you as you come to the workshops and the interaction that we get to have there, and the comments that you make about how the energy is always just so strong and so positive for what goes on in there. And that's because it's what you bring. You bring that, and it's what I have to share, and it's our commonness together in a common theme of understanding of what's going on in our world and what's coming our way. So I will I'll have that decision made within the next week, to be starting that. Right now we're looking at the 6th of October, so I might do 1 or 2 in November. Now, I always take a break around, Thanksgiving, and then I've traditionally have done 1 the first week in December, and then I take the break over the holiday season. So I might have 2, maybe 3, before the end of the year, but it'll be nice to get back into, doing the workshops again. So now, before I start in today's program, I had a wonderful, wonderful meeting today at lunchtime with 2 absolutely wonderful gentlemen who are basically a part, they're on the currency exchange list, but they're a part of what I'm doing. And I just want to, out of respect to them, I'm not going to, mention their names, but gentlemen, I just want to say thank you so much for an absolutely wonderful meeting today. It's one of those confirmations that we step into our divine assignments to carry out the things that we're called to do in this lifetime. But with these 2 gentlemen, let's just say I was very humbled to be with them, and Both of these gentlemen are what I would call being right in the genius category. One gentleman was recruited to go to Harvard in the business school there when he was still in early high school. He got there, and it took a while, but he found out that he was heavily recruited, if that's the appropriate term, or courted by this extremely powerful, wealthy family whose daughter was attending Harvard, and they wanted to hook him up. And it was about, they were, in essence, my understanding, and I'm telling the story how I understand it, is they were basically, in essence, wanting him, because they were so impressed with him, they wanted him in their family. And I'm using that term family of the European powerful money families, as if you're catching what I'm saying. And that was one of the gentlemen, and he, my understanding, if I remember it correctly, he did marry this one lady, but it took him about 6 to 7 years, and he realized what he got sucked into, and the marriage didn't last that long because he felt he wasn't free. He wasn't free to totally be himself. And then the other gentleman, this man was literally a genius. He was one of those that he was in high school when he was 8 years old. He started attending a major university at the age of 12, and he was so bright and so intelligent. At the age of 12, he was embarrassing the professors, and they got rid of him. They wouldn't let him stay there. But he ended up being taken on, and he was tutored by some others who recognized, his genius category. Now, that is the quality of these two gentlemen that I had lunch with today. But here's the most important thing, and they both reiterated this. You can live in a third-dimensional world. You can be an absolute genius. You can be in a place of extreme wealth, but none of that means anything if you don't understand that the world is a holographic illusion and there's multi-dimensions to this world that we live in. And that ties in with understanding the very strong spiritual aspect of our lives, because that's where reality is. The rest of it, this third-dimensional physical world, is just a holographic illusion. And they both get it. And so it was so great to see these two guys that were geniuses, in the third-dimensional world, come to understand that it doesn't mean anything. The one man, who went through early colleges, he said it was about 10 years ago that I caught on to this. And when I caught on to the fact that the world was a holographic illusion and it wasn't real, I realized, prior to that, I thought I knew a lot of stuff, and everybody in my life was just confirming to me, you're so knowledgeable, you know so much stuff. And he said, and that's when I realized how little I really knew. Because there's so much more that is out there than what we experience, in this third-dimensional world. And that's the real purpose, again, of these funds coming forward. It's to assist us in understanding our full potential of who we are as human beings and what we are completely capable of and what we can bring in helping others to understand this as well. This is the new age. This is the new age that we as humanity are moving into. And this is the era where literally the millions are going to begin to picking this stuff up. So it was a pleasure to be with them today. And so now on the next statement about what's happening on the currency exchange, again, we got into some of those discussions again today around the money, about who's funding it and where it's all coming from. And we know how real this money is. But again, it was like we don't know about the timing. It's all about the timing. And those decision makers of the timing on when this is to be released, those are at pay grades well above us. So we all acknowledge that today, is that on that issue, those are pay grades a couple steps above us, so we don't have a clue on the timing of when it's going to be released, but we do understand it can be very, very close. There's issues going on in this geopolitical world that need to basically be unfolding before the funds are released, but yes, it could happen very quickly. So that's the scoop there. Blanca, is there anything else that you would like to add to that before we get into the program tonight?
Well, it's good news. I'm happy to hear that you're considering perhaps doing a few more workshops before the end of the year, and hopefully you'll decide on the positive. I believe it'll be a great thing to get folks together because we're kind of like on the other side of this issue, this medical issue that we're dealing with, and I think we're a lot wiser about what's going on, and we've seen a lot and learned a lot, and I think a lot of people have woken up another degree. So it'd be very nice to get people together, so that can be shared, and there will be a sense of, okay, it's not just me trying to wake people up. There's other people who get it, and that's always nice when you had your workshop, that people would come together with like-minded people with same ideas about reality. And so it'd be real nice, I think, for people to get that opportunity. So hopefully you'll decide in the positive about that.
Yes. And you touched on a key term to help us just move right into what Cliff I had talked about. And all this stuff that's going on around us, it's about giving the opportunity for people to wake up. And what Cliff uses, he uses those terms called the normies, the normal people. And to get a grasp of what he's saying, if you understand and you remember the theme around the movie The Matrix, and Neo said you can take the blue pill or you can take the red pill. And when you're taking the blue pill, you're just living in this matrix world that you think is real and that it's not, and that everyday life is like that. And in so many words, that's what Cliff I calls the normies, the blue pill people. And the stuff that's starting to go on, what's going to happen in the COVID scenario with the vaccines, and what's going to happen as we're moving into an economic shift and change. These are opportunities for the blue pill people to start taking the red pill. It's the opportunity to help them wake up. Because, see, we need a certain percentage of the population here on Earth to be able to wake up, to carry the momentum for all of us into this new stage of development and freeing ourselves from this old cabal, globalist, power elite controlled world. And Cliff had talked about that. He calls them, the globalist. He calls them the deep state. And he says they are the power controllers. They're addicted to this sense of power and control over humanity. But this is the era that we get to wake up from that. So there was two major themes that he talked about in there. One is the issue that's taking place, with the V word. Now, I'm going to be very careful about how I say that because, YouTube sends in their little, they catch the words that you use. And if I say that word too much, they'll delete the video, because that happened about 4 or 5 weeks ago. My video was deleted by YouTube. So I want to be a little careful about how I'm saying those words. But if you go back into Cliff's video, you understand, and we've talked about this, the reality of what's taking place there. The reality is, inside these V's, inside these jabs, are basically ingredients that is never being made to the public. And one of them you can really come to understand, and I've encouraged you to do this many, many times, and that's to go back and read the Neruda interviews about this new upcoming world. One is the world of the transhumanist agenda. And through this transhumanist agenda, there's going to be these nanobots. And I had talked about, a couple of years ago about the different ways that the nanobots, that they can basically get them into us. I never thought at that time it would be through what would be this massive global event emphasis to basically take a shot, take a jab. And the nanobots are in there. There are people that are confirming that, top level scientists. And then the other problem is what is called the spike proteins that are coming out of that and what it's going to do to people. in essence, it's going to be very, very, very serious, where there's going to be literally millions upon millions of people that, I'm going to use the term, they're transitioning. And if you know how I use that term, you get what's happening there. Now, that can create some absolute dramatic chaos. It can create some very serious revenge when people begin to wake up to the truth of what really had happened there. And it creates some very serious, chaotic, revengeful anger. And that's normal. That would be a normal reaction when people begin to wake up and understand what was the true intent behind this global elite deep state to force as many people in this world they can to getting this jab, and what their real agenda behind it was. Now, if you're reading between the lines, you're catching what I'm saying. If you really want to get the rest of it, go listen to Cliff High's video. I've given you the link that I put it out of my newsletter this week. And he's not the only one that's talking about that. That same message is coming through the Palladians, being channeled by Barbara Marciniak, and they're coming through the channeled messages of Jesus through Tina Spalding. And on my Facebook page, somebody had just put a post that the FISA whistleblower leaks the exec's emails exposing the suppression. So, folks, remember, this isn't about a V word. It's not about that at all, because Cliff brings the argument out. If you have a perfectly healthy humanity, you should never, ever, ever need a V. Because here's what most people don't realize. When you get a vaccine shot to basically help you against a certain area, whether it's polio or whatever, they're actually putting a very small amount of the disease in the vaccine so that your body will use its natural power of immunity and then build up an immunity to the problem. That's what a true vaccine shot is about. And if this was a true vaccine shot, it would be just a little tiny bit of that COVID in it to help our natural immunity. And the discussions by the professional medical people was about building up your natural immunity so that you don't get the problem from it. And if you notice, there's very, very few people in the medical industry that are even talking about the natural immunity. So Cliff is basically saying that we're going to be expecting the hospitals filling up, and they're already doing that, and it's somewhat coming, to the breaking point. And he says what this is going to create, it's going to create a massive system breakdown. We're going to have a breakdown in the health system. And because massive numbers of people are either going to be sick and they won't be working, or one of the reasons for the massive labor shortage is people are afraid to go to work, thinking they're going to get sick, so they're staying home. So there's this massive shortage in a workforce, which causes a breakdown in the financial system. So you've got a health system breakdown, you've got a financial system breakdown, and then he says what's also happening deliberately behind the scenes is there's a massive breakdown in the trucking system. There are massive numbers of trucks that they're breaking down and they can't get the parts to fix them. And then you've probably heard the stories of the massive numbers of shipping containers sitting in the ports all around the United States, and they can't unload their ships. So we're going to move into a massive breakdown of supply for our issues in our everyday lives. So folks, myself and others, we've been explaining it's really important that you basically stack up on essentials that you need to keep you going for a month or two. Your essentials would be, again, food, primarily food and water. And then any other essential supplies or issues that would be very important for you. Because you can go into the stores today and you can see that people are starting to get this already. And quite often the shelves are very close to being empty on these essential daily supplies, because we have lived in a world of what is called, next day demand, is that stuff is always available within 1 to 2 days. And the stores at the most only carry a 2 to 3 day supply, and it's constantly being replenished because of the movement of the supplies in the shipping industry here and the trucking industry. Here's what most of us don't stop to think about. Every single item that we purchase and bring into our home is at one point in time or another on a truck. They come off the shipping containers, they're put on the trucks, and then they're taken to the local areas. Then it's put on a truck and taken to the store. And then if you end up ordering it online, like through Amazon, it's shipped on a truck from their locations to your home. Anything you purchase in a store got to that store by a truck. Anything you bring into your home comes through a truck. So the trucking industry is extremely important to our everyday supply of things that we use. And remember, the system is always designed to have this on a short-term basis, so you can always have it within a couple of days, and that's falling apart. So what we're doing is we're seeing coming up an absolute chaos because of the massive numbers of people that are going to start getting ill or transitioning from the V. We're going to see the start of an economic breakdown because of the lack of supplies that are coming. And what Cliff is saying, that's going to lead into hyperinflation. And he says it's a conglomeration of a number of things coming together that is going to create this massive hyperinflation that is coming our way. And he says, now you won't necessarily see it in the stock market, this hyperinflation, because the stock market is falsified. But what you will see it is you're going to see it in the supplies that you start purchasing. Cliff said he went into a store to buy a part for one of his trucks, and that part had a 1,200% increase in price from over a year ago. A 1,200% increase in its price because of its lack of availability, predominantly. This is what is coming our way. And he says, yes, it's going to be chaotic. Yes, it's going to be crazy. And yes, the deep state is bringing all this about because they're trying to push us into this massive emotional response where they want us to go into chaos. They want us to get mad and angry. They want us to get out of control because that allows them to come in and play what is called the savior role. They create the problem and then they come in and present themselves as the savior, but in reality, it's about their power and control that limits us. That's what they're wanting to do. And that is why it is extremely important for us to rise above the drama, not get energetically, emotionally involved in the drama, stay out of the judgment so you keep your own energy vibration strong, and we be the observers of the process versus the energetic participants in the chaos. We are the ones who have the ability to understand this. We are the ones who have this ability to stay in control. We are the ones that understand what's going on in this, quote, game that the deep state is throwing at us. And we have the ability to help create the healing process. And what Cliff is saying is, yes, it's going to be chaotic, but it's going to come out on a very positive shift and change in the process. I've been saying now for a good 3 to 5 to 6 years, for all of our money to come forward, the old current system has to collapse. And we are right on the edge of starting to see the breakdown, the collapse of the deep state cabal-controlled system of our world. And when that system collapses, it gives our new systems the opportunity to come in and replace that. It allows, that's the essence, the real essence of all this money coming forward, and we get to be the participants of bringing this money out to the masses, so it's no longer in the hands of just a few, but it's in the hands of the scores of the thousands of helping people all around the world. That's what we're moving into. That's the real issue. Now, I want to finish up this. In the last 10 minutes of the interview, Cliff really goes into extensive detail about the importance of buying some gold or silver. He says when you start running into massive inflation, people will take their money and they will put it into things that are stable. And it always is based around gold and silver. Gold and silver are the issues of financial stability in an economic crisis. And he basically says because silver is the one that's less expensive, everybody should have some of it, just some of it. If you've got what I call discretionary income that's just sitting in a bank, you let that sit in a bank and it's going to go through a hyperinflation. It's going to lose its purchasing power. If you buy some physical silver, you will then have that to hold on to, and the demand will get pretty strong. It will be really easy to resell it. You can go into gold and silver dealers. You can do it online. Now, I bought 20 bars of silver last night, 1 ounce bars. And the current market price of silver is $22.75 an ounce. Now, wherever you're going to buy it, you're going to have to pay for their overhead cost and the shipping cost if you're going to have it shipped to you and stuff like that. But I ended up basically paying about $26 for an ounce of silver. And Cliff High is projecting silver's going to go up to around $600 an ounce. $600 an ounce. He said, adjusted for inflation, we've been there before when, I'm going blank on their names, and these two brothers tried to basically, hoard all the silver in the world, and it created this massive inflation in the price of silver. And he says he remembers when he was a young man, people lining up 10 to 12 deep at the gold and silver stores to buy gold and silver because there was a massive rush on it. And he says that's coming back. And here's the issue. If you buy silver at the current price, folks, you won't lose. It's not going to drop hardly at all. But it has a very, very high probability that with the coming hyperinflation and with the coming crisis, it's going to explode in value again. And he says what you'll see is it'll jump about $1 a day. And then the next day it may jump $2. And then within a few days after that, it will jump about $5. And then all of a sudden it just, boom, takes off. And it gets on a mad rush. And when people see that, they're rushing in to get it. And there will be professional investors that get what's happening, and they'll help drive up that price. So I bought 21 ounce, silver coins yesterday so I can have a small amount in my own background. But I would encourage you to take a look at it. All you got to do is go in and look at Google about where you can buy it. You can also go right onto Amazon. You can buy it off of Amazon as well as, 1 ounce silver coins or bars in whatever form that you would like to have it. So, okay. Hyperinflation coming our way. Get yourself in financial order for that. Cliff was saying that the silver prices could start taking off any day, possibly. Yes, it could take a little longer, another week or two, but he says the whole scenario is there for it now. And he says we're going to start seeing a lot more news now coming out of the problems with the V. There is a website that does post the number of people that have died within 14 days of getting the jab. And that they are saying that, yes, the reason for that, their deaths, is predominantly the jab. And that is now registered at over 48,000 people already. And as you notice, the mainstream media isn't hardly saying anything, but what the people are saying is it's going to get to the point where they cannot ignore it. And then when it does that, it's going to hit this cascading effect, and it's going to create massive chaos, anger, and a lot of disruption and breakdown in our everyday lives. So I think that's all I need to say on those topics tonight. Blanca, let's go to you, and we'll allow you to make any comments that you would like to share with us, because you always do such a wonderful job.
Well, of course, you always put a lot on the table, massive things to talk about, and all important. And this thing with the shot issue is just an amazing thing. You can talk with people who are informed and they understand what's going on, what the ultimate agenda is about this shot, and it's not about helping your health. It's about power and control, and yes, it's about depopulation, and it's also about transhumanism. And if you all have been listening to like Dr. Carrie Madej or Dr. Tenpenny, you'll know what's inside there, and you'll know that Dave is right when he says that what's in there is actually to start turning you into more of a somewhat of a bot. And now legally, you will be considered a non-human because you've got this substance in you, and because you're a non-human, again, legally, when you get into the arcane text of what's going on, you do not have human rights if you're not a human. So these are things that are very, very serious, and as usual, they're occulted, they're hidden from us, but fortunately, the veil is a lot thinner these days, and as Dave has pointed out, the internet, if you're willing to do your research, will give you a lot of answers. So, and your family, because you may be very well informed, but your family doesn't see it that way, and I know you're probably trying to help people understand what this is about. So, you know, people like Dr. Carrie Madej or Dr. Sherry Tenpenny or Dr. McCullough, those are real good. And you probably heard about America's Frontline Doctors. Their website is pretty good, americasfrontlinedoctors.org. So, this issue that Dave brought up is a very, very deep, important issue, and it's almost and even Cliff High mentioned, it's like we're being warred upon. Okay, it's a different type of war, and the weapons are information or the occulting of information, disinformation, bioweapons, and energy weapons. And it's already here on this country. So these are very, very important issues that Dave is talking about. And I know, Dave, I remember we were talking about transhumanism, right? We're either going to choose transhumanism or you're going to choose sovereignty, the sovereign integral route for humanity. And this is it. We're right in the middle of it.
We're starting to see the reality of what Neruda had in his interviews that were done over 20 years ago. And we're stepping into that. And you touched on that, I'm going blank on it, on the issue of, the war, what Cliff High says. We are right in the middle of World War IV. And he says World War III was basically when President Reagan, led the charge to basically, the old Soviet Union through to disrupt their ruble and disrupted their country. That, he said, was like a World War III. But here we are now in World War IV, and this is not country against country. This war is a war of the deep state, the cabal, versus humanity. And we are right in the middle of this war, and it's extremely important that people begin to wake up and understand that. And he said that's the positive side of all of this chaos, because it's going to wake up a lot of the normies, in his term is what he used. In essence, the blue-pilled people are going to begin to wake up and say, what in the world is going on out there? And they will begin to see, or they'll begin to be open to listening to what the others are saying. And what I'm saying is that this is a war against humanity. And you've got these powerful cabal, deep state people that want to keep us in various forms of slavery. But it's very, very difficult for them to do it now because of the power of the internet, where we get to share this information with each other. And the positive thing that Cliff's High says, they're losing the war. They will not win this war. Yes, there are going to be some casualties, because there's usually always casualties in a war. But humanity, this is the war where humanity gets to wake up and free themselves from thousands of years of this cabal-based deep state control over us. And we're right in the very beginning of it right now. So, back to you, Blanca. Anything else you'd like to share?
Yes, and the other thing that you mentioned is this dismantling and the collapse of the system. And so, with the perspective that Dave is encouraging us to have, which is rise above it. Okay, we want to pay attention, especially if we're in a war. We want to pay attention to what's going on. But in terms of the state of our own consciousness, we need to be at peace. So even though we're in a war, in terms of what the matrix is presenting to us, in terms of our hearts and our minds, we have to be at peace. So, for example, when we do see the collapse of the matrix, and for example, the medical system you could see is really collapsing, and now a lot of people are even concerned about going into the medical system because they're not quite sure how they're going to be treated, and some systems won't treat you if you're not had the jab, and so you could see it there. Dave talked about the financial system and then the supply system. And so in a way, yes, it's going to be chaotic, and it's going to be inconvenient and a bit of suffering for us, but we have the benefit of being forewarned. And I know many of you probably already have heard Dave say, prepare, have supplies, things that you think you're going to need. And there's a lot of preparedness information out there as well. So again, I like one lady, she says, be prepared, not scared. And I love that because I think that's the attitude we have to have.
It's a great term.
We're going to go through, yeah, isn't that cool? We're going to go through a challenge there in terms of as this particular system starts breaking down. But the good news is it has to break down if we're going to replace it with something new.
Yes.
And so if we maintain that state of mind, that higher frequency, then we're already seeding the new.
Yep. So, well, Blanca, are we ready to turn over to the listeners if anybody would like to call in? I'm ready for that if you are.
I think.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's a good idea. We give the number.
Yes, folks, if you would like to call in and you have some questions or you'd like to make a comment, that number is 515-605-9356. Again, it's 515-605-9356. And then you just press 1 on your touch-tone phone. And, that will basically let us know that you would like to come on the air and you got some questions or some comments. And I know we always have a lot of wonderful listeners that are there, and most of them just like to listen, and we appreciate that. And we give it about maybe 30 seconds to a minute to see if anybody wants to come up and would like to, come on the air. And so far we don't have anybody. So, yeah. But interesting things. I know, folks, these are a lot of things I've talked about in the past couple of years, but we are finally on the edge of seeing them start to come into reality, if that's the term that we want to use. I should say instead of reality, they're coming into fruition. But they're beginning to transpire. This breakdown of society, this potentially financial collapse, that's going to be a worldwide global issue. And again, if you go back and listen to Cliff High, a lot of it is being propagated by the complete collapse of the Chinese bond system, and predominantly this one very, very large real estate company called Evergrande. Okay, so we do have one person that would like to come in, and he's from area code 214. Let's go to them and let's see what they have to say here. Area code 214, you're on the air. What can we help you with?
Hey Dave, this is Bob.
I thought this was Bob. Yes. How are you?
All right. I posted a couple of things, I guess, on the Facebook thing. One is Joni Patrice link to her video about what's going on with the new moon, and between the new moon and the full moon, which is today in a couple of weeks. She's expecting a lot of changes to happen.
Yes, I watched her. She's always very good. Yes.
Yeah, it kind of talks about sort of a timing, and that's good news. So things are changing.
Yep. So.
And next thing I posted is the website apmex.com. That's the American Precious Metal Exchange. That's where you can buy bars of silvers, because last week when Dick Swear said that the price of silver dropped to $21 instead of $25, and I went to buy some, they only had 5 coins left, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
So local dealers are out.
Yes, but it said there's a number of places. You can just Google it, and there's a number of places you can purchase coins online. The question is, you want to make sure that the company is credible, but you can always feel very safe if you buy it off of Amazon, because you know that they're going to back up anything that they sell.
Yep.
So, and I just found a different dealer that I was very comfortable with instead of Amazon when I purchased mine last night. So, but I said I purchased 20 of the 1 ounce coins. So. And I'll probably get some more, but I think I just wanted to start it out there. So, okay. Well, Bob, anything else then you'd want to share with us?
Nope, no jokes today.
Okay. Thanks, bud. Nice to have you on. Nice to have you come on. Okay. All right. Okay.
Bye.
All right. Okay. Then we got another caller that we're going to come in with, and this caller is from area code 770. You're coming up here. Area code 770. You on the air? What's your name? What can we help you with?
Hey, this is Alan. How you doing?
Hey, Alan. How are you?
Good. I just got one thing I wanted to say.
Sure.
Let's go, Brandon.
All right. So now tell me again. I didn't quite get. Let's go. Who?
Let's go, Brandon.
Oh. All righty,
You know,
Alan.
the Talladega.
What's that? Folks, for those of you who don't know, that's Alan. That's Blanca's husband. All righty. Thanks, bud.
Inside story.
That's right.
I had to put a little humor in there.
I know. Good. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Have a good one.
We've got one more caller here. And we're going to go to that one, and that caller's in area code 818. Let's see, you're coming up there, area code 818. You're on the air. What's your name? What can we help you with?
Oh, hi, Dave. This is Carla. Hi, Blanca.
Uh-huh.
I was wondering
Hello,
if
Carla.
you have ever... Hello. I'm sorry? to
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was wondering if you ever heard of a guy by the name of Irvin Lazio,
No, I have not.
and he wrote Why Our Universe is Holographic and Holotopic. and I was just wondering if you had ever heard of him.
I haven't
Very
heard of
interesting.
him, but the gentleman that I've referred to often, A.R. Borden, he's written a couple books on it about how the world, is a holographic, reality. It's not real, and he talks about the perspective from quantum physics about how they've been able to prove that as scientists. So, but he's the one. But
Yeah, it was very interesting.
yeah,
He
there's a.
details it and gives you. I'm sorry.
Well, I know him, and then there's probably 3 or 4 other good authors as well. But that lets you know
Right.
that the world we live in is a holographic illusion, and it's not real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was just clear and detailed for the layman
Good, good.
like me.
Okay,
Okay, that's all I want to say. You guys
Well-
have a good evening and stay safe.
and thank you for coming on the air. Okay,
Okay, you're welcome. Good
right.
night.
okay, and Blanca, that's all that I see. I don't see anybody else. Is there any other comments you'd like to make before we call it an evening tonight?
Well, it was nice to hear from folks. It's nice for them to call in. And we've got to make a fast and strong rule for Bob. If he comes on, he has to have a joke.
he usually does. He's the one that usually has a good joke for us. So, and when we always enjoy that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And thanks,
Alan
Bob.
tried, but that was a bit of insight from that one.
All righty. Okay. Well, folks, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we should be seeing you next week. I'm trying to get the